We have a new beauty brand today, Verse Beauty. I've never tried them before. I see them at Target. I see them at Ulta. And they were kind enough to send a few products and a code that I used to get some more products. And so I have not even pulled these out of their boxes yet. So we're going to try it today and see what we think of Is it Verse? Because that'd be a man after my own heart. Versed. Okay, that's different. It's not as exciting, but I appreciate the opportunity to learn about a new brand. So if that sounds good to you, then like, subscribe, follow along, shop my links, and let's go down the path of looking at Versed Beauty, which I believe is available at Target, on their website, and at Ulta. So Versed Beauty is supposed to be a clean, lower priced beauty, and it's the little sister, many people don't know this, but the little sister to Merit Beauty, which is a pretty popular brand that I really enjoy for that kind of clean aesthetic that's at Sephora. Well, this is a more reasonably priced brand, so I have a crap ton of stuff here. They sent this headband. Should I wear this? I don't have any hair to hide. Okay, I look like I'm like from outer space or something. So we're gonna just not wear that headband. But okay, we have the Rich Barrier Cream, which is a multi-lipid complex with glycerin. And from my understanding, it's a daily moisturizer that you can use, let's see, after your serums and eye creams. Use it as a primer, so that's what we'll do today. Then we have the Versed Skin Solution Multi-Serum Skin Tint SPF 40. I don't normally like SPF in my foundation, but maybe this is going to be, it's got 13% zinc oxide. Okay, well, those can tend to be a little thick and can turn odd colors, but maybe this will be the one that won't do that. So we'll see. I like the glass packaging. Then we have the Versed Skin Solution Serum Concealer in shade 2N. I forgot to tell you that the primer moisturizer is a universal shade, and I have 5N for the foundation. Let's see, what else is in this bag? Good Lord. Okay, they sent over some samples of an exfoliator because they have a lot of skincare on their website. So we won't be using that today, but I'm interested to see how it turns out. Okay, then we have the Lifting and Defining Mascara in dark brown. We have the Illuminating Stick High Points, it's called, and it's in the shade Baroque. Not Baroque, but like Baroque. Why is my phone blowing up? And then we have, let's see, a couple of blush sticks. Are these blush sticks? Yes. Okay, yeah, because the bronzer is a slightly different color. So the blush sticks I have, they're called Shade Swipes, and I have Brownstone and Bloom. So we will try those on. We have Easy Brow Tinted Brow Gel in brown. We have Tinted Lip Serum Soft Gloss in Compliment. We have the Warm Dimension Bronzer Stick in Away. It looks very dark, but we'll see. And we have the Smoothing Lip Blush Cashmere Color in Spice. What's the difference between... So this is more of like a lipstick, and the other one's like a lip serum. Hint of color, more for a glossier, bolder look. Okay. Well, we've got a lot of products to get to, so let's get to it and see what we think. I have not done one of these before where I've never opened the package before, so you're definitely going to get a first reaction. So let's go ahead and look at the Tinted Brow Gel. The Easy Brow Tinted Brow Gel. Brush through brows in short upward strokes to fluff and shape. And I have mine in the shade brown. So let's try it. It's a plastic container. Not particularly heavy, but not flimsy either. Okay. Made in the USA. Globally sourced materials. It's got a tiny little tip, so it's a little bit like the Boy Brow from Glossier. Okay, it's got a little more pigment than that one does. That's always my problem with Glossier, is that I just can't ever really get a lot of pigment out of it. This one's pretty nice. And the thing about this brand is they are like a baby sister to Merit, but with them being available at Target and Ulta and on their website, it's much more reasonable. I think like the most expensive item here today is like maybe $20, $22. So that worked. I don't know that it will hold up, but we'll see. It certainly had a nice amount of color in it. So now we have the Rich Barrier Cream, and it's a multi-lipid complex with glycerin. And the thing I really like about this is that it's got one of these pump caps on it. So I'm going to take a little of this and just put it on my skin, because my skin has been so dry. The weather here in Oklahoma City has been changing daily. Sometimes it's been really temperate, the next day it's been cool. So we'll see if this provides some relief. Now, it can be used as a primer, but it also says that it's used as a daily moisturizer. Use morning or night after serums and night creams. This is also made in the USA, and it says that it's for dry to very dry skin. Well, I typically have pretty normal skin, but right now it's pretty damn dry. So we'll see how it works out. And then, oh, I forgot something. When they sent the foundation, they also sent this little brush. I have used the brush. It's cute. It did the job. On their website, they have it in bundles with the foundation. So I think in that regard, that'd be a good way to try it out. Okay, so I don't have any eye products. They do have some on their website. So we're not going to do eyes today, other than maybe a little bronzer in the crease. So let's see. What else do we have here? Well, let's go in with our foundation. So this is the Versed Skin Solution Multi-Serum Skin Tint SPF 40 Sunscreen Foundation. And it is 13% zinc oxide, external use. What else? Shake well before using. Does it say made in the USA? Apply liberally 15 minutes before going out in the sun or as a skin tint. Do we have anything about where it's made? I'm not seeing that right off the bat. Just says that the company is out of West Hollywood. So we'll see. You get an ounce, so just like a standard foundation. Okay, it is not runny like a skin tint. This reminds me of the Merit skin tint foundation that has the sunscreen in it. What is that called? Like the Uniform? Something like that. Came out earlier this year. That's what the consistency reminds me of. So let's just place it with their little brush and see what we get. It is thicker than a skin tint. So I think it's more like a tinted sunscreen. Which of course we're supposed to be wearing every day, but the preferred method, most people say, is to wear your sunscreen separate. I wouldn't necessarily recommend a product like this if you were, say, going outside and you were going to have your photos taken, particularly at night, because oftentimes these sort of mineral-based sunscreens can create a white cast. especially if you put too much. So you really have to be careful. But I did like 2 pumps, and it seems to be covering really well. It does sort of remind me quite a bit of that one from Merit. Maybe that one's a little bit thicker, but I would say the coverage is about the same. I have some redness on my nose, but maybe I'll cover that up with the concealer when we get to that. That went on really nice. There's a little bit of a light cast in the areas I can see, but if I blend those out, so I think that the trick with these kind of products is to do very thin layers and don't overdo it, because if you overdo it, you really could get a bit of a cast. Okay, I'm gonna grab another brush and we'll come back and we'll start looking at these other products. So I'm admiring that. That looks pretty good, and it hasn't really grabbed onto dry spots. That could be because of that initial moisturizer primer. But the next thing we have is the Skin Solution Serum Concealer, a hydrating medium coverage concealer that blends seamlessly, blurs, and self-sets with skin-like finish. Well, now that scares me a little, because I'm normally a powder person, but we'll see. It's a nice glass bottle, and I have mine in the shade 2N 0.25 fluid ounces, so very standard for a concealer. So let's see what we can get out of this little... Okay, it's got a big kind of doe foot, holds a good amount of product. This might be too light. They didn't have a ton of color options. This does look like it's going to be light, but good thing I ordered a bronzer stick that looks like it might be kind of dark. We can kind of self-correct that a little bit. I grabbed my RMS Beauty little concealer brush because I think that would work really well with this kind of product. Verse doesn't have a concealer brush, so we're going to try this little brush that came out with RMS Beauty's concealer earlier this year. Yeah, that is light. What color is that? This is too neutral. Okay, so I definitely should go up, if I like this, to 3 neutral. But if y'all want to try the brand, this will be good, because at least you'll kind of see that when it comes to the concealer, and I think that this one said that it was for light, medium, neutral. That is light. It feels nice though. It's not overly thick. It's also not thin. It's got a nice consistency. And I'll go back in with my foundation brush in a minute and clean up those edges so it's not quite so stark. Because right now I look a little bit like powder. If you get that reference, then you were alive in the 90s. Well, I wanted to cover my redness. I think what I've ended up doing is covering it with whiteness. It does do that though. I would say that they're accurate in their definition of it being a medium coverage product. It does have a little tack to it. I don't know that I necessarily would say it's self-setting, kind of like the Gucci one, but it's also not... It does feel like it's doing something. Okay, I'm going to go back in with my foundation skin tint brush just to blend out those edges and get rid of some of that crazy that's going on, because that really is light. I would add like a color corrector to that under normal circumstances to make sure I could use that. But it does work, and I'm not seeing any immediate creasing. Huh. That's not bad. Okay. So the next few products we have, well, we have a mascara. I guess we can go ahead and try that. It's in the brown shade, and this is the Day Lash Lifting and Defining Mascara. And it says it has vitamin E and arginine. So we'll try it. Okay, it has the kind of foot that the Tower 28 mascara has, and it also has that same kind of flexibility that the Tower 28 one has. They're probably, okay, a little transfer there, but that's my fault. I think we're pressing too hard. They're probably somewhat similar in price. This is probably a little bit less, but they're probably somewhat similar, because Tower 28 does some nice products at a pretty reasonable price. Okay. So that did add some drama. I certainly can see where there's, they look fuller. I don't know that they look longer, but they definitely look fuller. Okay. I'm going to grab this and just see if I can clean that little area up where I got just a little bit on there. I could see, we'll see how quickly this sets down. Yeah, it does. I think it would probably, you'd want to make sure that you were not going out in the rain immediately. We'll say that. But in a few minutes, this might dry down rather nicely. Also made in the USA. So that's cool. Okay, so now we have bronzer, and this is the Versed Warm Dimension Bronzer Stick with jojoba seed oil and fatty acid, also made in the USA, and I have mine in the shade Away. Oh, actually, this one's made in Korea, and I have mine in the shade Away. Now, I think that this shade is going to be a little too dark, but when I was picking, this was like the second of 3 or 4 shades, and the one that probably would have been perfect for me was sold out. So we're gonna have to try Away and just be careful and hope that it blends nicely. But you know what? The foundation's a little light, so maybe it'll be perfect for that. It does have a subtle glow, the foundation. I'm seeing that. I'm seeing it on my hand where I put the foundation on, there is a slight sheen. Okay. And then it has kind of a turn on the bottom so you can turn it up and down. I'm scared. Should we put it directly on? See if it lifts. Okay, that does appear darker in the container or in the component than it actually does on the skin. I'm going to kind of use this as a contour, as you can see, but I can go back in with my brush and use it as a bronzer. But let's just see how it blends out. Okay, that blends out rather nicely. I'm not noticing anything strange with it or anything. It actually blends out really pretty damn good. It reminds me a lot of the Nude Sticks one, if you've tried that before. It's not like the Westman Atelier or anything like that. It's not that good, but it certainly, for the price, this is actually a really nice product. And I thought the color was going to be too dark because of how it looks in the container, but it's actually pretty nice. I'm most impressed with the fact that they're doing like a clean beauty, but at a reasonable price. I mean, Merit is really wonderful. I love Merit, and I love their perfume and a lot of their products, but they're pricey. Okay, so we have 2 of the blush sticks, and these are the Shade Swipe blush sticks, A buildable creamy blush that easily blends on cheeks and diffuses into a radiant wash of color with jojoba seed oil and fatty acid complex. And these are also made in Korea. And I have 2 shades. I have Brownstone and I have Bloom. So let's see what we have here. The Brownstone looks like what it says, a bricky kind of red color. Okay, there are stickers. I guess you're just going to have to deal with that. It's not Louis Vuitton. Okay, this one doesn't, does it turn? Yes, it does. Okay, it was just a little stuck. So this is Brownstone. It's a pretty color. A bricky red. Pretty for fall. And then this one, oh, the stickers, y'all are killing me. But I get it. You don't want people taking them off the shelf. And this one is Bloom. Also turns up and down. So that one's kind of like a cool mauve. You know, why don't we put the bricky red one up higher and the cooler mauve down here? Now, normally I don't think these colors would go together, but actually what I'll do is I'll put one on one side, one on the other, and then I'll put a little of the other one on it so we can kind of blend them out and make them look a little more normal. So this is the one called Brownstone, and they do put it on the bottom too, so that's good. I was afraid that it might just be on that sticker. Okay, these have a lot of pigment. They have a nice shine. They're very malleable. Huh. That's impressive. I'm going to build it up a little crazy just so we can see what it looks like. Normally I wouldn't do something that intense. Okay, that looks a little nutty. Okay, let's see if we can work this in a little bit. I mean, that certainly warmed up the foundation. So the trick, I guess, with these blush sticks from them is they're highly pigmented. Less is more. Okay. Now on the one called Bloom, which is a cool mauve color. Let's place it over here. Also very pigmented. So these are not necessarily a build-up product, as more of just a get it on your face and enjoy. So less is more when applying. I'm glad I did not apply it directly on my face, although it's pretty malleable. I don't think it would have stained or anything. So over here we have Bloom, and we have one. I'll put 2 since I did 2 of the other. I really hope I don't get like a delivery right now because I look a little nuts. But they do look nice. So this is Bloom, the cool mauve taupe, kind of, you know, dusty rose. And then over here is the one called Brownstone. So I'm going to put a little of this pink over here to cool off Brownstone. Okay, that mascara is transferring a little bit. I didn't like that. I thought that it felt very creamy and that it might not dry quickly, and it doesn't appear that it does. Yeah, it's transferring a little over here too. So, you know, it's just something to be mindful of. And I'll grab a little bit of the Brownstone. Very little of it over here just to warm up this cool side. Okay, yeah, I look a little nutty, but that's okay. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to remove any extra product. And then I'm going to run that over the edges just to blend this in nicely. So I would say that with these, they can get away from you rather quickly, as you saw, because they have so much pigment. They're not like a Pat McGrath one where, you know, it's buildable in light. These have a lot of pigment from the get-go. Okay, next we have the Verse High Points Illuminating Stick. And this is a luminous cream highlighter that adds dewy dimension for a fresh, natural glow with jojoba seed oil and fatty acid complex, also made in Korea. And I have the lightest shade of this one. So this is the color Baroque. And you know, I didn't get the lightest shades of the blushes, so they could just be somebody like me needs to use it really mild with a light hand, but somebody else with a darker complexion, they may be just perfect for that. Okay. Stickers. Again, the windy. Let's go in. Okay, so that's like a soft, silvery gold. It's not terribly warm. Blend that in with that brush. Just a little bit. I don't see any visible particles, but it does sort of just lay. And I am starting to see a little bit of creasing under the eyes. So I probably would have used a powder foundation, or not a powder foundation, but like a setting, like a Pat McGrath under eye setting powder probably would have been perfect with this, because I am getting a little, you can see there, a little bit of creasing. Actually quite a bit right here. I mean, I can press it in and that helps, but I definitely would want to set it. This is starting to look better though. So the color's dissipating a little bit. I think that that's good. And that's a pretty highlighter. It's not as smooth as like a Victoria Beckham one, but it is pretty. It's got a really kind of creamy finish. I could see if you had hair that it would get, well, you know, that's why they send you that headband. Okay, so now we have two things left. We have something called the Smoothing Lip Blush, which is a weightless buttery balm that gives your lips a hit of hydration, a wash of color, and a demi-matte finish. And then we have the Soft Gloss, which is one layer for a hint of color and more for a bolder, shinier look. Which do we want to use first? Well, let's try the gloss. So the gloss I have in the color Compliment, which is kind of a dark reddish color, bricky, and I think that that would go really great with that, what was it called, brownstone. One layer for a hint of color, more for a glossier, shinier, bolder look. And this is also made in the USA. So let's try this. And this is a clicky pen, kind of like the Victoria Beckham concealer or the YSL Touche Eclat. Okay, let's see what we have here. It does have a hint of color that would go well with that brownstone. It has a creamy consistency, a little bit like a thicker version of like a YSL Love Shine. It's a nice balm. You know what? Let's try a second layer because it says that's what you do if you want more gloss and you want more color. It's comfortable. Yeah, I can't really complain about that. It certainly feels nice on my chapped lips. Now the last product is the Cashmere Color Lip Blush, and it says it's a weightless buttery balm that gives you some hydration, a wash of color, and a demi-matte finish. So this will be good to put as a prep, and I guess that one probably could be used as a gloss over this, but I'm going to take this off. They do feel nice. There was a good amount of color on there. And grab this, and this is in the color Spice, so another fall color. I think it would go really well with that brownstone. And this one is just a lipstick, kind of traditional lipstick turn. Okay, so it is what it is. It's just kind of a matte kind of balm that has a nice little bit of color on it. I would say that these products remind me of a cross between, this actually feels a little bit like a Merit blush, if you've ever tried those cream blushes that they have that come in the pods. This reminds me of Glossier, but with more color. Stronger. I think it's a much more reasonable price. I think you have to be a little careful with some of the products. This worked well. I would say this creased a little, even though it says it self-sets, so I definitely would use a powder. Yeah, it's back to creasing, so definitely use a powder with that. The brow gel, I have no problem with. These do feel like they're in place, so I can't complain about that. The mascara did transfer, but it was a pretty color, and I think that once it's sat, I think it would be fine. You just have to be careful. I guess that's kind of the thing with a lot of these products, is you just need to be a little careful. With the skin tint foundation that has the SPF in it, you just want to use very thin layers. You build it up too much and it's going to look really heavy. And then I was really surprised with the bronzer. It blended out really nicely and actually was less intimidating than the color in the package. The blushes perhaps were more intimidating than the color in the package, but that's okay because I was able to make them work, and as you can see, some of the color's already dissipating a little bit, so I think that's okay. Highlighter was fine, and these lip products were fine. I'll have to report back on the exfoliator. But all in all, I mean, for the price, it's a way to get Merit type products. They're not Merit level, but they are Merit type products, Glossier type products, with more pigment at a more reasonable price. There are some good products that are in Target or CVS, etc., Walgreens. I really like L'Oreal True Match is a great foundation. Some of the e.l.f. products are great. It's just kind of hit or miss, but so is all beauty. It doesn't really matter what price it is. I will say though that these worked pretty well. I'm going to continue to try it. I like what I'm seeing so far. I do think that it needs a little bit of a powder. I don't know if they have one or not, and I certainly didn't try an eye product, but hopefully today you've got a kind of an idea of what's available in the line and how it works on someone around my skin tone. So if you like this content and you'd like to see more content like it, then please like, subscribe, follow along. Tell your friends that are into this kind of content about the channel and shop my links. It really does help. And there's a lot of really good promos right now and sets on the Versed website. So if you want to experiment, you could get a set and save quite a bit of money. And they normally are like one blush, one bronzer, one highlighter. They're like little sets, but it's a way to save some money on a brand that's already pretty reasonably priced. So yeah, I'd call this a moderate success so far, but I'm going to keep trying it. Thanks for joining today, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.